In March 2025, some 1940s expedition reports remained classified until recent archival releases revealed something extraordinary about Antarctica. These aren't just theories anymore. We now have official confirmation of anomalous geometric formations detected by early radar in Antarctica, unexplained aerial phenomena that military pilots can't explain, and evidence of technology that defied conventional understanding. Cold War-era radar and modern gravity surveys hinted at unusual subsurface formations that match no known geological patterns. These anomalies have prompted renewed scientific interest and debate about Antarctica's hidden geology, raising questions about what else might be documented in recently released files. The 2025 document release that changed everything. The National Archives released 4,847 classified documents on March 15, 2025, after 8 decades of complete secrecy. These files weren't routine military paperwork or weather reports. They contained testimonies from colonels, admirals, and intelligence officers describing encounters that left them questioning everything they thought they knew about our planet. The documents came from Operation Deep Freeze missions between 1946 and 1987, and what's inside them changes the entire narrative we've been told about Antarctic exploration. Colonel James Richardson filed a report in 1957 describing structures his reconnaissance team discovered beneath 400 feet of ice. His team used primitive ground-penetrating equipment and detected what he called artificial geometric formations spanning several square kilometers. Richardson wrote that these weren't natural rock formations because they showed precise angular construction and apparent internal chambers. His report was immediately classified, and Richardson was reassigned to a desk job in Washington within weeks of filing it. The documents reveal that Operation Deep Freeze wasn't just about establishing research stations. Military personnel were specifically tasked with investigating anomalous readings and unexplained phenomena that other expeditions had reported. Captain Robert Hayes documented in 1963 that his unit discovered metallic objects embedded in ice cores that showed no signs of rust or deterioration despite being frozen for what geologists estimated to be thousands of years. Hayes described these objects as having smooth surfaces with markings that resembled circuitry patterns. Multiple reports describe encounters with aerial phenomena that military pilots couldn't explain or engage. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Mitchell filed an incident report in 1969 after her helicopter was approached by 3 disc-shaped objects that maintained perfect formation while executing maneuvers impossible for any known aircraft. Mitchell reported that these objects appeared to scan our helicopter with beams of blue-white light before accelerating to speeds we estimated exceeded 10,000 miles per hour. Her report was classified immediately, and she was transferred to a non-flight position. Most significant documents come from Project Iceworm, a classified operation that officially focused on underground military installations, but actually investigated much more. General William Foster documented in 1962 that excavation teams discovered pre-existing tunnel systems that showed signs of advanced engineering and construction techniques. Foster wrote that these tunnels extended for dozens of miles underground and contained chambers large enough to house aircraft. When his teams explored deeper, they found evidence of recent occupation, including warm air currents and electromagnetic signatures that suggested active power sources. These documents validate decades of speculation from researchers who were dismissed as conspiracy theorists. Dr. Michael Harrison, a geologist who worked on classified Antarctic projects, had claimed for years that military teams found artificial structures beneath the ice. The newly released files contain Harrison's original field reports describing pyramid-shaped constructions with bases measuring over 1,000 feet per side. Harrison documented that these structures generated their own heat signatures and showed internal geometry that suggested they were built rather than formed naturally. The files include radar data from multiple expeditions showing massive underground complexes that military personnel couldn't explain. Commander David Park filed reports in 1971 describing subsurface scanning that revealed interconnected chambers spanning over 50 square miles beneath the ice sheet. Park noted that these chambers showed architectural precision with corridors, rooms, and what appeared to be vertical shafts extending deeper than our equipment could penetrate. His team detected consistent temperature readings suggesting these spaces maintain climates warmer than the surrounding ice would allow. Energy readings documented in these files show that something beneath Antarctic ice generates power signatures that don't match any known geological processes. Major Lisa Chen reported in 1983 that her scientific team detected electromagnetic emissions following mathematical patterns that suggested artificial generation rather than natural phenomena. Chen's instruments recorded energy outputs equivalent to small nuclear reactors coming from sources located over 2,000 feet beneath solid ice. When her team tried to investigate the source, they encountered interference that disabled electronic equipment and caused compass needles to spin wildly. Witness testimonies from military personnel described technology that seemed decades ahead of anything possessed by known nations. Sergeant Robert Crawford documented in 1965 that his unit observed craft emerging from beneath ice sheets that demonstrated propulsion systems unlike any known aircraft. Crawford reported that these vehicles showed no visible engines or exhaust, yet achieved immediate acceleration and performed right-angle turns at high speed. His testimony describes objects that appeared to be made from materials that reflected light in ways that made them difficult to photograph or track visually. The files contain communications intercepts showing that foreign governments were equally baffled by Antarctic phenomena. Decoded Soviet transmissions from 1974 described their personnel encountering flying objects that responded to radio communications in languages that linguists couldn't identify. Chinese expedition reports from 1981 document underground installations that showed evidence of occupation by unknown parties using technologies not possessed by any known nation. Multiple files reference ongoing monitoring operations that continue to track Antarctic anomalies using satellite surveillance and automated detection systems. Reports from the 1980s describe permanent monitoring stations established to track energy emissions, aerial phenomena, and subsurface changes in regions where anomalous discoveries were made. These monitoring operations apparently detected increasing activity levels in recent years, with energy outputs and aerial sightings becoming more frequent and more intense. These revelations mean that government agencies can no longer dismiss accounts of Antarctic anomalies as unfounded speculation. The documentation exists in official military files with witness testimonies from credible personnel who risked their careers to report what they encountered. But these weren't the first documented encounters with Antarctic mysteries. Historical records from earlier expeditions had already raised questions that researchers are now examining with new forensic techniques. Admiral Bayard's secret diary entries finally confirmed. Among the most significant of these earlier expeditions was Admiral Richard Bayard's controversial Antarctic missions, whose personal diary entries underwent forensic authentication in early 2025. Georgetown University's forensic laboratories completed authentication analysis on 127 pages from Admiral Richard Bayard's personal expedition diary in January 2025. The authentication process used spectral analysis on paper fibers, ink composition testing, and advanced handwriting recognition software that compared pen pressure patterns and letter formation characteristics across thousands of samples from Bayard's verified writings. Dr. Margaret Chen, who led the forensic team, confirmed that the controversial diary entries matched Bayard's authentic writing patterns with 99.7% accuracy. The paper dating showed manufacturing characteristics consistent with 1940s military-issued notebooks, and the ink contained chemical compounds that matched fountain pen inks available during Bayard's Antarctic expeditions. The authenticated diary entries reveal that Bayard documented flying over regions of Antarctica where ice coverage appeared thin or completely absent. His entry from February 19, 1947, describes observing vast stretches of exposed land showing brown and green coloration that suggested vegetation growth in areas where ice should extend for hundreds of miles. Bayard noted that these ice-free zones appeared to follow specific geographic patterns and generated their own weather systems that created localized warming effects. His observations included detailed sketches of these regions showing what appeared to be lakes, rivers, and forest-like areas that contradicted everything known about Antarctic climate conditions. Temperature readings that Bayard recorded in these regions showed anomalies that modern climatologists can now explain through geothermal activity analysis. His diary documents surface temperatures reaching 65 degrees Fahrenheit in areas where ice coverage was minimal, with consistent warm air currents that his aircraft encountered during low-altitude flights. Bayard noted that these temperature spikes occurred in specific locations that corresponded with underground heat sources that his expedition's primitive instruments could detect but not fully analyze. Modern geothermal mapping technology has confirmed that these locations sit above significant underground thermal activity that could maintain ice-free conditions even in Antarctica's harsh climate. The authenticated entries describe multiple encounters with unidentified aerial phenomena that appeared to monitor Bayard's aircraft during flights over these unusual regions. His diary entry from February 23, 1947, documents two disc-shaped objects that maintained parallel flight paths with our aircraft for over 40 minutes, while demonstrating flight capabilities that exceeded any known military technology. Bayard noted that these objects could execute instant direction changes, accelerate to extraordinary speeds, and maintain perfect stability in wind conditions that challenged his military aircraft. His detailed observations include estimates of the object's size, which he calculated at approximately 50 feet in diameter, and their metallic appearance that reflected sunlight in ways that made them difficult to photograph. Bayard's personal notes describe how these aerial phenomena seem to respond intelligently to his aircraft's movements and radio transmissions. His entry from March 2, 1947, documents that when his radio operator attempted to contact base camp, the unidentified objects moved closer to his aircraft and appeared to scan it with beams of light that caused his instruments to malfunction temporarily. Bayard wrote that his compass spun freely during these encounters, his altimeter readings became erratic, and his radio communications experienced interference that made contact with his base impossible until the objects departed. The diary contains extensive documentation of underground cavern systems that Bayard observed through openings in the ice sheet during low-altitude reconnaissance flights. His entry from March 8, 1947, describes flying over crevasses that revealed massive underground spaces extending beyond the range of our aircraft lights, with dimensions that suggested these caverns could house entire cities. Bayard documented that these underground spaces showed evidence of air circulation, with warm air currents flowing from deep within the Earth that created fog and mist effects visible from his aircraft. His sketches show cavern entrances that appeared to be geometric rather than naturally formed, with straight edges and angular openings that suggested artificial construction. Modern ground-penetrating radar surveys conducted between 2023 and 2025 have confirmed the existence of these underground systems exactly where Bayard documented them. Current research teams using advanced subsurface imaging technology have mapped cavern networks that extend for hundreds of miles beneath the Antarctic ice sheet, with chamber dimensions that match Bayard's estimates from his aerial observations. Dr. Robert Harrison from the Antarctic Research Consortium confirmed that these cavern systems maintain temperatures well above freezing and show air circulation patterns that indicate connections to the surface through the openings that Bayard documented in his diary. Bayard's observations of geometric structures visible from the air align precisely with recent satellite imagery showing artificial constructions beneath Antarctica's ice. His diary entry from March 15, 1947, describes flying over formations that displayed mathematical precision in their angles and proportions, appearing as rectangular and triangular shapes that contrasted sharply with natural ice formations. Bayard noted that these structures cast shadows that revealed their three-dimensional nature and estimated their sizes at several hundred feet per side. His sketches show pyramid-like formations and rectangular complexes that match structures modern technology has now detected beneath the ice. The authenticated diary entries reveal that Bayard experienced systematic radio communication failures during flights over specific geographic coordinates. His technical notes show that radio interference occurred consistently when his aircraft flew within 5 miles of certain surface features, including the geometric structures and cavern openings he had documented. Bayard's communications officer, Lieutenant Robert Hayes, filed reports that were later found in military archives, confirming that radio blackouts occurred during every flight over these regions, with interference patterns that suggested external sources rather than equipment malfunctions. Electromagnetic readings that Bayard recorded using his expedition's basic detection equipment show energy signatures that modern researchers now recognize as indicators of advanced technological activity. His diary documents instrument readings showing electromagnetic fluctuations that exceeded our equipment's measurement capabilities, with patterns that suggested artificial generation rather than natural atmospheric phenomena. These readings were strongest near the locations where Bayard observed geometric structures and aerial phenomena, indicating connections between these various anomalies that his expedition couldn't fully understand with 1940s technology. The authenticated diary entries provide specific geographic coordinates and detailed descriptions that current research teams use as guides for modern investigation efforts. Bayard's detailed documentation of underground energy sources, aerial phenomena, artificial structures, and electromagnetic anomalies provides a historical foundation for modern researchers investigating these same phenomena with advanced technology. What Bayard could only observe and sketch from aircraft flying overhead, today's sophisticated imaging systems can now examine in unprecedented detail. Satellite eyes don't lie, the underground structures. Advanced ice-penetrating radar systems deployed in 2025 revealed massive geometric structures buried beneath Antarctica's ice sheet that completely changed how scientists understand what lies hidden on the continent. These satellite imaging systems use artificial intelligence to analyze subsurface formations, and they detected structures that show precise mathematical angles and proportions that don't match anything found in nature. The technology can penetrate through over 2 miles of solid ice and map underground formations with accuracy that wasn't possible even 5 years ago. What the satellites found underneath all that ice shocked researchers because these formations show deliberate construction rather than natural geological processes. The largest structure that satellites detected measures approximately 3 kilometers at its base and extends downward over 500 meters below the ice surface. This massive formation shows geometric patterns that indicate advanced engineering and construction techniques. The structure has perfectly straight edges and angular corners that form mathematical relationships you'd see in sophisticated architecture. Scientists ran multiple scans to confirm these measurements because the scale of what they found seemed impossible for anything that could exist beneath Antarctic ice. The structure's dimensions and geometric precision suggest it was built rather than formed through natural processes over thousands of years. Thermal imaging analysis revealed that these structures generate their own heat signatures, which suggests they might still be active or functional in some way. The temperature readings show consistent heat patterns coming from inside these formations that can't be explained by geothermal activity alone. Some structures maintain internal temperatures that are significantly warmer than the surrounding ice and rock formations. The heat signatures follow patterns that suggest internal systems or processes that continue to operate despite being buried under massive amounts of ice for potentially thousands of years. Scientists monitoring these thermal readings noticed that the heat output varies in cycles that indicate these structures might still be performing some kind of function. Multiple structures detected by satellite imagery are connected through what appears to be an extensive tunnel network that spans hundreds of kilometers across different regions of Antarctica. These tunnels show the same geometric precision as the main structures, and they create an interconnected system that covers vast distances beneath the ice sheet. The tunnel network appears to link different structural complexes, and it suggests a coordinated design that required advanced planning and construction capabilities. Some tunnels measure over 50 meters in diameter, and they maintain consistent dimensions across their entire mapped length. The network scale indicates that whoever built these structures created an integrated underground system rather than isolated individual buildings. These discoveries were initially classified by research institutions, but information about the structures leaked through scientific journals in early 2025. The classification suggests that governments and research organizations recognized the sensitive nature of these findings and wanted to control how information about them reached the public. Multiple scientific papers published in February and March 2025 contained references to these structures despite attempts to suppress the data. Researchers from different countries independently confirmed similar discoveries in their Antarctic surveys, which made suppressing the information impossible. The leak occurred when satellite imaging data was shared between international research teams, and some scientists decided to publish their findings despite classification orders. Positioning of these underground structures aligns perfectly with magnetic anomalies that researchers have been tracking in Antarctica for decades. Scientists have known about unusual magnetic field variations in specific Antarctic regions, but they couldn't explain what caused these anomalies until the satellite imagery revealed the underground structures. The structures sit directly beneath areas where magnetic readings show significant distortions and variations from normal magnetic field patterns. This alignment suggests that the structures either contain materials that affect magnetic fields or they generate electromagnetic activity that interferes with magnetic measurements. The correlation between structural locations and magnetic anomalies indicates these formations have properties that extend beyond just their physical presence. Building massive underground complexes like these would have required construction techniques and capabilities that exceed what most ancient civilizations possessed. The precision of the geometric patterns and the scale of the construction suggest access to advanced engineering knowledge and sophisticated tools. Moving the amount of material needed to create structures this large would have required equipment and methods that could handle massive excavation and construction projects. The structures show evidence of planning and design principles that indicate their builders understood advanced mathematics and architectural engineering. Creating underground complexes that could withstand the pressure of hundreds of meters of ice above them would have required materials science and structural engineering knowledge that rivals modern capabilities. Geometric patterns found in these Antarctic structures match architectural principles that researchers have identified in ancient civilizations around the world. The mathematical relationships between different structural elements mirror design concepts found in pyramid complexes in Egypt and Central America. Angular measurements and proportional relationships in the Antarctic structures correspond with similar patterns that appear in ancient temples and ceremonial buildings from various cultures. These similarities suggest either shared knowledge between ancient civilizations or influence from a common source that provided architectural guidance to builders across different continents. Recent thermal imaging analysis shows that some structures display changing heat patterns that indicate ongoing activity rather than just residual warmth from ancient construction. Temperature variations in certain structures follow cycles that suggest internal processes are still operating after potentially thousands of years of being buried beneath Antarctic ice. Some structures show increasing thermal output in recent months, which indicates that whatever systems exist inside them are becoming more active. The changing patterns appear in different structures at different times, which suggests coordinated activity rather than random thermal variations. Energy signatures detected from these structures don't match known geological processes, and they indicate artificial systems that generate power and maintain operations.